Good evening, my bewitching beloveds, and welcome to the show for those who want to know that this world isn't all there is. Tonight we'll be taking you on a haunted jaunt through the paranormal, inexplicable, unusual, and bizarre. Zip those sleeping bags up tight because the clock just struck midnight. I'm your ghost, Dean Dream, and this is Midnight Visitor. Welcome back to the Dream Manor, my gorgeous ghouls. As you may have noticed, there's a little bit more of a chill in the air than usual tonight. Even our resident ice queen, Dustin, is bundled up. No, they didn't turn the gas off on us again, though Lord knows public access does not pay the bills. No, tonight we are foregoing the warm and cozy gothic walls of the Dream Manor for the great outdoors. That's right, tonight we are going camping, which is extra exciting for me because I got kicked out of Boy Scout camp for being too rough with the counselors. Tonight we have a tale of haunted wilderness and a guest with a penchant for exploring the human and non-human energies that lurk in the deep dark of the woods. Don't forget your flashlight. But first, let's hear a little bit from our paranormal and wilderness survival correspondent, Kenneth Brenda.
Thanks, Dean. Now, what a lot of viewers might not know about me is that not only am I a paranormal investigator, but I'm also a wilderness and survival expert. Come with me as we spend a day out in the bush, Kenneth Brenda style. The first thing you're always going to want to do as a wilderness and survival expert is survey the premises. Make sure to get up as high as possible so you can really get a feel for what you're looking at. Alright. I think I've found a pretty good spot down there. Let's see what the wilderness has to offer us today. Alright, I've done this thousands of times before. Shouldn't be a problem for old Kenneth Brenda. A perfect place to tuck in. And it's just the right amount of privacy and protection from the elements. I think I'll stay in here for quite a while.
Now that I'm properly settled in my tent, I'd like to just take a moment to catch up with the confessional cam. As you can see, my interior is quite cozy.
Now, after a long afternoon of shelter building, you are gonna get a little peckish, and that's when the beans come in. I've got my beans, 79 cents at Aldi. I just need to find my can opener. Where got a can opener? Well, it's no matter at all. Us bush boys know how to make do. So with beans, you could always just forage nature's bounty. Maybe some friends of the forest left some chips and snacks in here. I'm just foraging for some acorns that make incredibly delicious nature's treats, nature's candy they actually like to call them. And there's plenty over here, but they've all just gotten eaten by squirrels before. What's this? A little bit of litter? That's the #1 rule of camping. Take it out what you take in. Don't be a litter bug. absolutely fail. I'm gonna go see if I can talk to a park ranger about this.
This is Kenneth Brenda, wilderness survival expert. It's been about 6 hours since we've been outside, out in the wilderness, alone. And, well, I think my own crew is starting to turn on me. I'm taking a little walk, trying to clear my head, because as we know, the one thing that grounds me more than anything is a little peace and quiet and the beauty of nature. I've just discovered something about myself, which we often do when we're out here in the great outdoors. And that's that I don't know how to read a map. So we'll just have to go on intuition alone. I'm even more alone in this world than I once thought. To my mother, Brenda, if you see this, know that your son died in pursuit of what he loved. The great mysteries of the world. I've got to get out of here. I've got a terrible feeling about what's happening in the woods.
We were gone for like 5 minutes.
I'm seeing specters. They're coming to get me. I don't know what lurks in these woods, but it's something very evil.
You know, come to think of it, nobody has heard hide nor hair of Kenneth since he filmed that segment. Somebody should probably check and make sure he's okay. Not me, though. I'm busy. Our guest this evening makes work at the intersection of dreams, nature, and the unknown. He is a musician, music therapist, video game designer, and host of the renowned mountain shows in Cold Spring, New York. And he's no stranger to bizarre apparitions. Please welcome Dan Goldberg. Welcome, Dan, to the Dream Manor. It's so wonderful to have you here tonight.
Thanks so much, Dean. It's wonderful to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your work and how the threads of the paranormal kind of weave their way through the things that you make.
Okay, so yeah, I've been making music and video games and doing performances as the Spookfish since 2007, and also hosted quite a bit of events and shows and performances in nature, and I've been really interested in sort of exploring mysteries and kind of showing magic to people, but that magic might actually be our reality. Like sometimes I think we have like repressed our ability to see things that feel magical in our own lives and in our own reality, in the forest and in our dreams and in ourselves. And there's one story in particular, or one song I have called Black Ghost with Red Eyes, that I think is the most sort of intertwined with a personal paranormal experience. And it started when I was between the ages 2 and 5, because I mostly grew up in Philadelphia, but at that time I was in Connecticut, and that's when I had this dream. And in the dream, I was in the garden in front of our house, and my father said, "Hey Danny, look, a monster." And there was this little green monster in the garden. And I kind of tensed up and I just stepped on the monster, but I didn't feel anything under my foot. And I looked down and it was gone. It had just disappeared under my foot. Then in the second part of the dream, I was with my childhood friend, and we were playing with Fisher-Price toy cash registers. And I was playing with this cash register and I started shaking, and I was just full of dread in this dream. And the next morning, when I woke up in my waking life, on my dresser was that green monster. And I could look at the monster very clearly, It had red eyes with yellow streaks in them. And we were just staring into each other's eyes, and I was like, oh man, like I was so scared of monsters. Everybody told me they're not real. Here I am about to be eaten by this monster. Like, this was a weird 3 years. I started screaming, and my mother and my grandmother, who we lived with, came in and came in the room. They did not see the monster. And I kind of scaled the wall out of the room, and I came back a few hours later, and there was just a navy blue shirt sitting in its place, but it was not a bright green, glowing-eyed monster. Kind of forgot about this story and didn't tell too many people about this story because I didn't want them to question my mental health. But many years later, I was teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I had a student, and I was just really asking questions to write down blocks of speech from this student. I didn't care what the questions were, just getting this person to speak, writing it down, and showing this person the grammar that he's using and mistakes. And one of the questions was, have you seen a ghost? And he said, I woke up one morning, there was a black ghost with red eyes sitting on my dresser staring at me. I called my mom into the room. She didn't see anything. And I was like, wow, I had a very similar story. And I told him the story, and he was like, you've seen a ghost. And I just was thinking about it a lot, and I made the song Black Ghost with Red Eyes and explored it in many different recordings. And then I had a friend sort of seek me out, like kind of someone I didn't know very well but was very fond of. And he was living abroad, and he had participated in a ceremony, and he betrayed the rules of the ceremony. And then he experienced this black ghost with red eyes deep in the woods entering his body. And he was very scared. He approached the leader of the ceremony, who told him that is something inside of himself that he cannot accept, and he needs to learn how to love that place within himself. But he still just could not get this out of his head. It was torturing him. And he was also discovered my song and was listening to my recording over and over and over again. And he then went on this sort of journey into the woods where he camped, I think, for 4 days. And he saw this black ghost with red eyes. He poured love to it, and it disappeared. At this time, I was hosting these shows on a mountain near Cold Spring, New York. And I had the opportunity for the New York Times to write about them. And I said, sure, and I had no idea what it would entail, and I had never had that sort of attention on art I was making. It was a little exciting, a little worrisome. And the day the article came out, I had a dream. I was in a dungeon, and half of it was dark, half of it was light. And there were people crying in the light part of the dungeon about what they saw in the dark. And I just was like, these people are ridiculous. I'm gonna just storm into this dark part of the dungeon. It's a black ghost with red eyes. I'm gonna pour it love. It's gonna disappear. I go in there, and suddenly I'm in the back of a car. And I'm supposed to be let out at my house, but the people driving the car do not let me out of this car. And I'm like, hey, that's my house. Like, let me out. I'm getting more and more angry, and suddenly they turn around and stab me. And then I wake up. And I wake up to sort of angry emails about this article about the mountain shows, which I had not quite expected. And I was sitting there having lunch with my friend that day, and I told him, you know, I had this weird dream this morning. I just did not feel how I thought. And he said, were you sitting in the back right seat of that car? And I said, yes, I was. And he revealed to me he had had the same dream that same morning about getting stabbed in the back right seat of that car. And we kept sharing details, and they were exactly the same. and we avoided each other for months, but eventually realized it's just the same as any other experience in this world. It's a total mystery. We can't know what it means or why or what to make of it, but something that happened. I personally saw it as sort of the death of some sort of ego and some things I had been holding on to that I think were really hurting myself.
Beautiful. What an incredible Kismet series of events.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. It has been such a joy to have you here.
Thanks so much, Dean. So good to be here.
Thank you so much to Dan for sharing his wild tales with us. If you'd like to play his flash game, Bear in the Snow, you can find it at the link below. Sounds like it's time for a visitor voicemail. This week's true and terrifying transmission comes from longtime friends of the show, Brian and Nikki.
In July of 2019, myself, my husband, and our two friends, Alec and Marita, decided we wanted to go on a backpacking adventure. So our friend Alec picked this place in New Jersey called Round Valley Reservoir. You can either boat in or hike in. It's about 6.5 miles to the campsite that we picked, which is campsite 62. So on that day we arrived, it was about 101, 102 maybe degrees. So we hiked in. It was kind of an uncomfortable hike, and something just kind of felt off. We couldn't really pinpoint it, but that's how we felt. And we arrived safely, though, to the campsite. The way the campsite is set up is that you have beach access to the reservoir, so a little trail that leads down there, as well as a trail that leads to the main trail. On the second day, we woke up, it was beautiful. We decided we wanted to spend some time in the reservoir, swimming and hanging out, so that's exactly what we did. While we're out there, we started noticing some pretty dark clouds rolling in, and we went back to our campsite and we heard all of our phones get a warning about a tornado happening in the area coming through. And we didn't have service previously, but we all got this warning on our phones, so that kind of made us concerned. We packed up all of the stuff that was loose on the campsite and put it under a tarp, and we all packed into one tent together to just wait out the storm. We could hear, while the storm is happening, trees and limbs cracking and breaking and thudding to the ground. The ground was even like shaking while we're on it as the trees were hitting. It was pretty scary, and the rain was pouring, and we just kind of were trying to wait it out. It was getting pretty late at a certain point, so I decided and volunteered that I was going to go out, quickly grab our dinner and the pot in our stove to just make dinner in the tent really quick. And so I got my headlamp and went out of the tent. I'm putting my shoes on, and as I finish doing that, I turn and I am within like 2 inches of this old lady in my face, and immediately I was frozen. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I don't even think I was breathing at the time. I was paralyzed by fear. It was completely unexpected. None of us heard her approaching. She gave no warning that she was coming on to our site either. But here she is right in my face. She is soaking wet. She has gray, curly, frizzy hair. She has one eye open, one eye closed, and she's only carrying a pillow. And she is silent. She is not saying anything to me. Brian could hear that I wasn't moving, so he started yelling my name, and I wasn't responding. And he could sense something was wrong, so he opened the tent and saw this lady right in my face. So he quickly gets out of the tent, and so does our friend Marita, and they're trying to figure out what is going on. What is this lady doing here on our site? Brian is asking her questions, and all she's doing is muttering. We can't make out a single word she's saying. Brian is like, you need to get off our campsite. The main trail's up there. And then she starts clearly saying and demanding someone needs to take her to her campsite. At that time, I was pretty adamant that no one was going to do that because I was scared that we were being lured into a trap of some sort or someone was going to jump us or something like that. But Brian insisted that he was going to take her to the main trail to get her off of our site. So they're walking up together, and as they are doing that, Brian is asking her questions like, what are you doing at our site? Where are you staying? What's going on? Are you okay? And she just keeps saying, take me to campsite 66. Take me to campsite 66. 6 more of us are coming. That's when kind of everything stopped. The idea of 6 more people coming was terrifying to all of us. But Brian was able to get her onto the trail and direct her to go left to keep going to get to campsite 66, explaining we're 62, you're 4 sites away, but just to keep going and stay on that trail. He comes back and it's still raining, so it's almost disorienting because you are hearing raindrops, but they sound like footsteps and you're on edge. So we're kind of just spinning in circles and not sure if we're really hearing things, if they're really footsteps or what's going on. I decided to call the park ranger, who told me the quickest he can get there is 45 minutes. There's no other campers around our area, so we just felt so isolated in that moment. With that being said, and the lady saying that 6 more people are coming, we see 2 lights from headlamps approaching our beach area. So Brian and Alec run down to the beach area to make sure that they can't come up onto our trail and campsite. And they are 2 men about our age. They were pretty young, between 25 and 30. Brian starts asking, hey, is everything okay? They said our boats broke down, but we're just walking them to our campsite. Brian said, oh, where are you staying? And is there an old lady that is staying with you? And they said, we're not sure, there's a lot of us tonight. So another eerie response from somebody else, but Brian asked, do you need any help? No, we're okay. And they went on their way to their campsite. Brian comes back and we are hearing screaming from the woods, from the old lady, yelling, help, help me. And it's so loud, it's echoing, it's pretty disturbing to say the least. And, we're just listening for more to come or what else is going to happen. So we wait out of the tent for a while, and then there gets a point where we're just deciding to go back into the tent and we'll all stay together and just hope for the best. I did not sleep at all. I was terrified. I was hearing things. The rain kept going, so it sounded like footsteps, and the paranoia is crazy when something like this happens. We made it through the night. We packed up all of our stuff. I was eager to get back to the car and get out of these woods. It really scared me, but we are hiking out, and around mile probably 3 or 4, we see someone on trail walking super, super slow with a huge backpack on. And as we are passing her, I kind of turn back and realize it's the same exact lady from the night before. And she looks at me and she says, how many miles until the end?
And that's why I've resigned myself to stay in the walls of this drafty old mansion for the rest of eternity. No tent pitching or weenie roasts for me. But speaking of weenies, my lovely co-ghost Dustin T. Dust has a telepathic transmission he'd like to share with us now. Well, it certainly has warmed my cold little heart to tell stories around the campfire with you all this evening. And remember, if you have your own story of the bizarre, paranormal, unusual, or otherworldly, email us at midnightvisitor1984@gmail.com. Or you can call our visitor voicemail line at 475-209-2099. You could be featured on the show. And as you fall asleep tonight, remember that there is so much more to this wild and unknown world than meets the eye. The mysterious and otherworldly truly permeate all things. It's only supernatural. Until next time, I'll see you in a dream.